It's like going into the Senate. You know, the first time you get there, you're all excited. My God, how did I ever get here? Then about 6 months later, you say, how the hell did the rest of them get here? And I got to tell you, after standing up with them, some of these people frighten me. They frighten me. When you have mainline candidates that turn around and say that there's nothing off the table with respect to Iran, that's code for using nukes, nuclear devices. I got to tell you, I'm president of the United States. There will be no preemptive wars with nuclear devices. To my mind, it's immoral, and it's been immoral for the last 50 years as part of American foreign policy.
Let's use a little moderator discretion here. Senator Gravel, that's a weighty charge. Who on this stage exactly tonight worries you so much?
Well, I would say the top tier ones. The top tier ones. They've made statements. Oh, Joe, I'll include you too. You have a certain arrogance. You want to tell the Iraqis how to run their country. I got to tell you, we should just play get out. Just play get out. It's their country. They're asking us to leave, and we insist on staying there. And why not get out? What harm is it going to do? Oh, you hear the statement, well, my God, the soldiers will have died in vain. The entire deaths of Vietnam died in vain. And they're dying in vain right this very second. You know what's worse than a soldier dying in vain is more soldiers dying in vain. That's what.
Yes, the late great Mike Gravel, folks, here on WLTX 1370 AM. Rest in peace to him. Talking. I mean, I wish you guys could see the clip. You see Obama there. You see Hillary Clinton. You see John Edwards. You see Joe Biden. All of them just standing there laughing at him like he's growing a second head or something when he's saying, "Look, you people are dangerous," and they are. Mm-hmm. Barack Obama would get elected and go on to bomb 7 countries at once after getting a Nobel Peace Prize. And speaking of bombings, Rev, Joe Biden, who was on that stage, I mean, I guess it's fitting that as Mike Gravel leaves this earth, and knowing the way that he felt about the U.S. bombing the hell out of people, just this last week, the United States on Sunday carried out another round of airstrikes against supposedly Iran-backed militia in Iraq and Syria, this time in response to drone attacks by the militia against U.S. personnel and facilities in Iraq. Why are we still in these people's country? This is what Mike Gravel's talking about. This was 2008. He was saying this. Stop telling them how to run their country. Get out of these people's countries. Get out of these people's countries. I guarantee you that even Mike probably had no idea that 13 years after making that statement, we would still be in Iraq and would add Syria and Libya to the countries that we were already bombing when he was outraged at it at that point. Mm-hmm. So it never stops. It never stops. We must bomb more and more countries. Now we have drones. So like you said, Rev, these people don't have to see their loved ones being brought back in body bags every week, because now we're just killing everybody else over there.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I get it. After World War II, there was basically a power vacuum. Well, it looks to me like that power vacuum has pretty much been filled on a variety of levels by a variety of people. If the purpose of a military, and in most countries it seems that is the case, that the purpose of a military is defend your borders.
Right.
On the other hand, the Soviet Union created the Warsaw Pact essentially to have a buffer between them and Europe.
Yep.
And when I was growing up, you know, we weren't told that. We were told that they created this Warsaw Pact because they just wanted to devour, you know, all of Europe. Well, it was only after the fall of the Soviet Union that the information comes out. You can read about it and such, and it turns out, no, they had just gotten invaded by Germany. Mm-hmm. You know, at the end of World War I, there was actually a situation where American forces were landed in a part of Russia called Archangel. It's just the Russian psyche is that the West is not their friend. Right. You know, and so you know, they've got enough land. They were big enough, and they said, okay, well, we'll make it so that it'll be hard for you to invade us again. We'll put these other countries in front of us. Now, by contrast, you know, America, 2 oceans. It's kind of hard to get to America.
Right, it is.
You know, other than through Alaska or up through Central America. Well, there's one country that could come through Alaska. That would be the Soviet Union. Through Central America, well, there's not really anybody that's much of a threat in South America that we need to worry about.
Right.
So, you know, we're until recently we were pretty safe.
Yeah.
So what did we have this military for?
Right.
This huge military.
Right.
It was to maintain balance of power.
Right. And one man who saw what was coming was our former president, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yeah.
A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
There it is.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
There we go. The military-industrial complex. We just got done talking about it. Eisenhower warned against it. You see what Mike Gravel is talking about.
Yeah.
Here
I wonder something.
Right.
You know, one of the things that made the Vietnam conflict stand out was that President Johnson was able to promise that they could have all the guns that were needed and we could have all the butter we wanted.
Right.
Normally, a country goes to war at some point. They have to make choices. Mm-hmm. Where are we going to spend our money? Mm-hmm. But we had reached the point where we could do what we wanted, go to war, and nobody would feel the pain.
Right.
And that was a unique situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if that had ever existed in human history.
I'm guessing not.
You know, but definitely once the rise of the nation state and the rise of the concept of total war, that had never existed, where you could go to war and nobody at home would feel the pain of it.
Right.
And so on top of which, well, let's face it, there were people that were, you know, they're working, they're getting paid, you know,
mm-hmm.
Union workers are
Yep.
getting paid.
They are.
Management getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And so who wants to stop the gravy train?
No, nobody.
I mean, what happens, so many times when the Department of Defense decides to terminate a weapon system? You get congressmen up in arms.
Mm-hmm.
You got people in a particular congressman's district talking about how they're going to lose jobs and they're not going to be able to make it. And so, as often as not, we find ourselves making decisions that would seemingly just be about military strategy and logistics on the basis of political expediency
Mm-hmm.
and economic impact.
Yeah.
So it's like saying, well, we have a military because, we got to keep people working.
Right. We do. And that's exactly what Eisenhower was warning against. And that's why one of the reasons why they are so influential now, because as you said, some of these districts are dependent on making. I remember even Bernie Sanders in Vermont at one point, they were making, I believe, some sort of aircraft there. And he was like, well, we may not be able to get rid of that one. Because even in Vermont, they want to continue to build whatever, even if it becomes destructive in some way.
And it becomes a thing. Well, they can do that. The government can make those kind of decisions, and we don't suffer a consequence behind it.
Nope, at least not immediately.
Exactly. I saw a picture the other day. I forget how many M1 tanks the U.S. Army has in its inventory, but there was this picture, and it was like thousands of M1 tanks that are in mothballs.
Really?
They're not going to be sold to anyone else. We don't have enough units to put them into. They're just sitting there because we built them.
Right.
Because it keeps Chrysler's assembly lines going. Right. And so what do you do once at some point your economy has gotten accustomed to this,
right,
to this level? How do you pull back from that without somebody saying, wait a minute, you're taking food off my table?
Absolutely. Well, it's 7 now after the hour. It's 7:07 p.m.